Okay, so I have a question that came in over break. It's a really good one. Is it important for two dogs who live and play together to play with other dogs? Really good question. Well, yes and no. It depends. Here's why it might be. What's going to happen when you lose one of the dogs? What if your dog has never played with another dog? So, ideally, yeah. Ideally, a dog would be used to playing with other dogs. Can you always pull that off? Not necessarily, but ideally, yeah. Your dog would have some experience playing with other dogs. I think that's part of what I think is important about socialization is dogs learning that we've messed them up and that they come in shapes and sizes that were not like necessarily in there until we started messing with them. The first time Luke saw a English Bulldog puppy, he went, boom! And it was some canine equivalent of, what the is that? I mean, he honestly didn't know. And then he sniffed it, and you could see it was like, oh, I didn't know they came like that, you know? So I think that's part of what can be important. Okay, good question. I got another really good question over break. Actually, I got three questions that was the same question, which is, Tricia, you keep advocating people to go get their PhDs in this. Well, how do you do that? Because it's not so easy, and it's not. One of the biggest challenges in the field that I'm in is that unlike some fields where there's a clear path, if you want to be a veterinary behaviorist, you go to vet school, you get a DVM, then you spend 2 years doing a residency. If you want to be a dentist, you go to dental school, right? The path is not as clear, partly because behavior is so eclectic. You can get your undergraduate in psychology. You can get it in zoology. I got mine in zoology. I minored in psychology, but I specialized in behavior and ethology especially. So if you want to go back to graduate school, here are a couple of things. I'll just say a couple of things and then refer you to some other websites and then move along to back to play. But if you're interested in pursuing this, and I hope you are, those of you who mentioned it, yay, you, go for it. The most important thing to know is there aren't a lot of programs scattered around the country that say, are you interested in doing applied behavior? Then come to my laboratory and do research on domestic dog behavior. There are almost none of them out there because one, domestic dogs are still not as cool as wild animals. Familiarity breeds contempt. What are dogs called? Canis lupus familiaris, you know. Somebody on my committee actually said after I won the Ali, which is the most prestigious prize you can get for a PhD dissertation, that this is the person who was on my committee said, you know, I didn't really believe you could really do science on dogs. This is a really good person who was a very helpful committee member, and I actually turned to him and I said, well, it was good enough for Darwin, who came up with a theory of evolution by natural selection by not just touring around the world on the Beagle and going to the Galapagos, but by watching people breed animals on purpose and discovering the principles of artificial selection. Anyway, so here's what you need to do, is you need to first be aware that most people who take in graduate students are researchers. The way they become known is that they create people who go off to do research. So if you want to go off and be applied like I am, you're going to need to find a way to study something that's going to help advance the field in terms of research. So if you're interested, look at what is out there. Do a little bit of research in the field. What is hot right now? What is particularly interesting? You know, is it physiology and emotion? Is it some kind of... When I was in graduate school, one of the topics that was really hot was communication. And I got a National Science Foundation fellowship. I got a university fellowship to study communication between people and dogs as a model, testing why animals use the energy and take the risk of vocalizing to other animals. So I was using communication between people and dogs as a model of a bigger principle. So I was taken on by somebody who studies fish and who swore he would never, ever, ever take on a graduate student who studied mammals. Jeff Bayless, Dr. Jeff Bayless, and he was like, okay. And then he decided it was okay. Because it turned out to be really interesting stuff. So go to the Animal Behavior Society site. They have a whole list of people who are certified applied animal behaviorists and who list what they do and what their interests are. And that's a good way to start. And then find a professor who's doing something interesting, who's interested in letting you use canine behavior or interactions between people and dogs as a model of a bigger question. Does that make sense? That's a tiny little short answer to a very big question. But email Barbara Smuts in Michigan. Look at the stuff she's turning out, right? So just keep your ears open to other interesting stuff going on. Okay, so let's look at some videos that may or may not be play between dogs that might be somewhat problematic. So keep in mind some of the principles we talked about. This is from Karen London, by the way, who I also want to thank for sending me these videos. Deep drop, deep drop. So there's a pattern here, right? I catch the ball and I never get it. So here's my question. Is this a problem? If this was your dog, would you consider this to be a problem? Well, what do you need to know to answer that? Does it bother the other dog? Exactly. And does this other dog look bothered? No, I don't think this, I don't think this dog looks particularly bothered. Yeah, a little vertical play there. Okay, fine, take the ball. It almost looks like a ritual. It really does. It's almost like, and now watch this next one, in which, same thing, I got the ball, it's my ball, I got the ball, but watch this role reversal. Open mouths, relaxed bodies. I got the ball, I got the ball. But does Merle, dark gray dog, look stressed and concerned? No. And now look who self-handicaps. I got the ball. Bite your leg, bite your leg. Loose tail. I don't think this is a problem. I don't. These dogs, as far as I know, this didn't lead to anything. These dogs weren't fighting. Big, strong dog is self-handicapping. Yeah, not quite. Didn't quite forget about the ball, did he? Little shake, little grab shake. Okay. So let's talk about what problem play might look like. Here's the list I came up with, and I'm not suggesting this is completely inclusive. It's a good start, though. You might want to add to it yourself. Little or no pausing, little or no self-handicapping, increasing arousal, including increasing vertical play, retracted commissures. I talked about either a closed mouth or an open mouth with a retracted commissure, the corner of the mouth pulled way back, sign of increasing arousal and tension. One dog attempting to terminate the play. One dog dominating the actions of the other, completely restricting the freedom of that dog's movement. So it's not the kind of like, I'm on my back and you're on top of me, but we're all fine with it kind of interaction. And this one's very subjective. I will be the first to say this is very subjective. A lot of this is change in vocalizations. It's one thing to have dogs growl, but when you start to hear a change, it either becomes much lower pitched, much higher pitched, or much louder is when we all start to pay attention, right? Bully behavior is basically just another term for one dog dominating the actions of another, whether that dog wants it or not. And then, of course, the ubiquitous blood. Always have to have that on the list. So here's play that I would suggest to you. This is from Karen London again, is problem play. Sign number 1, right? Play bow, that's nice. Play bow and pause, that's good. So the Aussie created the pause. Aussie went and hit again. The Aussie is creating the pause by going and hiding. So you got to give this Aussie a lot of credit. Shake, did you see that shake? That often signs to me that there's been tension and a dog is, quote, literally shaking it off. Yeah. Look at that. So has brown dog ever voluntarily paused? Right. No, I haven't seen it once either. Now, there, maybe, a tiny bit. Watch this. Ooh, ooh, ooh. All of a sudden got real vertical because brown dog had a hold of Aussie. You can see it again in slow motion. That was not a good interchange. So Aussie is, oh, shake, pause, shake, because my neck hurts. Now watch this. Okay, brown dog, full mouth. Coming around, and all of a sudden everything's directed to the top of this dog's neck, right? Now I have a hold of you, and I am not letting go. Now there's some inhibition there. Could be a lot worse. It's not a dog fight, but this is not polite play. I don't think this is polite play. And I mean, you got to give this Aussie a tremendous amount of credit. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, like brown dog. So focused on the Aussie, on the merle white, all that white. Okay, here's another. This is a really interesting one. These are, I'm not positive that these are litter mates. And initially, I would argue that this play is, I'm not really concerned about this play. Certain amount of disappearing behind the trees. So obviously young dogs. I've damped the sound down because it's sort of windy and yucky. I turn it up a little bit later. Chasey, chasey, chasey. Chasey, chasey, chasey. Oh, behind the trees. Oh, get the dogs out from behind the trees. So, watch for role reversals. Watch who's who. Look at the tails. Is somebody always on top? Is anybody trying to terminate play? Are there a lot of pauses? A few. Speaking of, there's some. It's interesting, they're trying to get a videotape of play, so the human is like, come on, let's play, let's play. So, there's not a lot of pausing here, and I would like to see that, but they're young. There's a lot of inhibition going on. There's not a lot of self-handicapping. So this is sort of interesting. This is not ideal play at all, but neither do I think there's anything here that's like, well, this bears looking at. I'd like to see more pausing. I'd like to see more handicapping, but they're young. They're litter mates. Oh, don't know about that. And then what's going to happen is another dog, an adult Malamute, is going to be brought into the picture. And watch how things change. A lot of mouth play. Pretty rough players.
Right in the shadows.
But now...
Can any of them be off leash, or are they all?
No. But now watch. We have an adult dog who just came into the system. And this apparently happens a lot. This was the problem. All of a sudden, things are going to change between the two litter mates. Play, play, play. Chasey, chasey, chasey. Hide behind the trees. Drive the videographer crazy. Who knows what's happening? Oh, here they come. Now watch.
Kiss guy.
Ooh. Bite, hold, shake. Ooh. Not letting dog up.
Does this happen to Hemi a lot?
Yeah.
Do you ever interrupt it?
Hey.
Do you want to? I think maybe you should.
Do you love that? Do you love that? I was talking to Carrie about it, and she said, oh, is that the one where I weekly asked them to stop the play? I said, no, you were perfect. You know? You were perfect, and that you were very polite, but, you didn't panic. You were like, yeah, well, I'm getting a little uncomfortable here. So this was the problem, and it only happened when that adult dog was around. There was a power shift, and all of a sudden there was trouble. Okay, here's a videotape from a dog park. It's like, uh-oh, everybody's like, oh, dear. So actually, this is another playground monitor, but not the shepherd. The shepherd, there's a long tape. I just have a little tiny bit of this, but the shepherd basically tries to elicit play from lots of dogs. Nobody wants to play with this poor little shepherd. It's like the social nerd. But watch the Roddy. The Roddy is like the playground monitor. I want to play. Somebody play with me. Look at the Roddy. Look at that. Hey, you, stop. There's a reason nobody wanted to play with a shepherd. Shepherd doesn't play nice. Shepherd's very bitey. And the Roddy, look at that. Isn't that cool? What's that? Yeah, right. Only room for one of us in this town. Let's talk about problem play and how to handle it. Now, I guarantee you're going to leave here going like, oh, I want more on that. I guarantee you. I mean, we could do a whole 4 hours, couldn't we, on what to do. And so I can't, again, it's like, how do you stop a dog fight? I can't possibly tell you everything you want to know about how to handle every circumstance. So this is just the chapter titles of what I think is important for us to work towards. 1, recognize healthy play. What's healthy play and what's not healthy play. And help people understand that. Our clients don't know. People in classes don't know. One of the first clients I had me drive all the way across town. It was an hour and 15-minute drive. I did a house call because their golden retrievers were fighting. Except they weren't. It was totally appropriate play. The dogs are having a ball. And I was young. I was young, but I was new in that I just started my business. And I said, I can't charge you for this. So I literally spent an entire afternoon and drove a very long way and lost a whole lot of money because I felt so bad. I was like, I'm not going to charge you for telling you your dogs are fine. So I think part of what we need to do as trainers is teach people what healthy play looks like. If I was queen, and I am not, and I could design a beginning dog training class right now at this age, I mean, I did design them, and I didn't design them this way, but what I would do now is I would include a big section on play and healthy play, and it would have videotapes. It would have videotapes in it, and it would show people this is healthy play, this is not healthy play, these are the things to look for. So, know what healthy play looks like, know the signs of over-arousal, know about change in vocalizations, know about no pauses, know about that kind of commissure retracted and all those teeth flashing that we talked about. So that's one aspect. Ideally, I think everybody who lets their dog play at a dog park, this is ideally, at a daycare with somebody else's dog, you and your dog should have mastered at least one cue. I would never take a dog out, even in a fenced dog park, if I couldn't know that we had one cue that was mastered, whether I could either say, get back, or leave it, or come, or lie down. I mean, you got to have one cue. If you take your dog out off leash anywhere, even in a fenced area, my belief, you need to have one thing you can say that no matter what your dog does. Now, ironically, how do you practice that, right? Well, you have to go there, so there's a transition time. But ideally, you need to be able to say, get back, or watch, or come. I think come when dogs are playing is really problematic. Because when you ask a dog to come, you're asking them to stop what they're doing, change their attention, and then come to you. And I think that's too many things. So like if a dog is chasing a deer, I don't say, Willie, come. I say, down. Or, whoa. Willie, come. Good boy. So if your dog is playing with another dog, you don't like it, I'll be like, well, leave it. Good boy. Good boy. Or I'll say, get back. Good boy, let's go. Okay? So, master one cue. If you need to physically intervene with two dogs who are fighting, the worst thing I think that we can do, we do a lot because it's what's normal, is we all sort of stand around and go like, is this okay? And then we stop breathing, which makes our bodies go stiff, which is a sign to attack to a dog. And then our eyes get really big and round. And our commissure goes forward, which means attack now, auga, dive. So what's I think critical is if you possibly can, sometimes food helps, sometimes it makes things worse, you have to know, is I want you to intervene in some way to get your dog's attention and then turn away and get out of there. Walkies! Let's all go on a walk. Let's all go on a walk. Take the attention off of each other and take it out somewhere. Let's go out this way. Go on a walk. Where's your toy? Where's your frisbee? Where's Jim? Where's this? Look away. Watch. Whatever. Get them turned away, and then you go away. You don't stand there like this, intensifying the pressure. Get them away, and then as soon as you get them away, you go away. Separate the pressure as much as you possibly can. And obviously, if something starts happening, you need to start evaluating the relationship between those dogs. What's going on? Question from the back.
Yeah, in some cases when the dog turns away and then tries to leave, that'll be a cue for the other dog to attack also.
Yeah, I hear you. Every once in a while, if you call your other dog away, there are some really bad bully dogs. There are not many, but you're right. There are some out there who are going to turn and go for your dog. That's when I'm going to be right there, and I'm going to be watching both dogs. I know I can trust my dog to do what I ask, and I'm going to be right there to be like, do a little body block if you can. Okay? Again, I can't solve, would that I could solve all serious dog-dog fight problems right now. Wouldn't that be cool? Just standing here. So cool. I'd be like the queen of the world. One more question.
I noticed in the videos that when there was problem play going on, that only one of the dogs would do a shake-off, which is a kind of a calming way to... And I notice when my dogs play, if one shakes, the other one shakes off too, and it's just like, sort of like, okay, we're both going to... and then they'll go back to playing
That's
again.
interesting.
And chasing or whatever. So I'm wondering if that's a cue that one dog is feeling like this is not okay, while the more dominant dog is feeling like it is okay.
Well, not necessarily the more dominant dog, but perhaps the problem dog.
The problem dog.
That's a really good question. I don't know. I have seen cases where you see both dogs shake. I have seen that, and then there was a fight. So that certainly can happen. So I don't know. Listen, you guys all pay attention to that. One of the things I hope to do from today is to send you home with 1,000,000 questions. Really, truly, and to start observing and finding, the really brilliant scientists say it's not about the answers, it's about the questions, right? So if I send you home going like, I have more questions than I got answers, I'm like, yes, I succeeded, that's great. Good question, don't know the answer. Pay attention. All right, let's switch. I do want to get you out of here before 5 o'clock. So I'm just going to go right into the third section of this afternoon, if that's okay. I'm going to talk about play between people and dogs. We're now talking about interspecific play between two different species. So that's what we're going to end up with, because that also is an incredibly important part of our relationship with dogs and isn't always so pretty sometimes. Those of you who treat behavioral problems know that one of the problems that we see are dogs who are playing with humans and then all of a sudden it goes ugly, right? So we've already talked about how incredibly playful adult humans and dogs are. I argued that I think it's one of the foundations of our relationship, that and the fact that we're emotionally so expressive. Talk about that, and for the love of a dog, dogs' faces are so incredibly expressive. And we read them, and I think they read us. I don't know. PhD. I don't know. But we certainly read them, but we also love to play. And it's really important. That's why Karen London and I wrote Play Together, Stay Together. It's about how to use play to enhance your relationship and avoid it causing problems. Because play can indeed encompass the best and the worst of our relationship. It can be really, really fun, and it can create all kinds of problems. And those of you who treat behavioral problems, I'm sure you've had the same kind of experience that I've had, in which people come to you. It's like, I was playing with my dog. He didn't want me to, I don't think he wanted me to stop. He started leaping up and biting at me. Dogs are playing with my 5-year-old. My 5-year-old got bitten. It's pretty common. But it is a foundation. It's part of what we do. And how much do we talk about it in classes? How much do we talk about it in beginning family dog training classes? Some of you, somebody said a lot. Yay, I love you. Good for you. And anybody who doesn't, it's really, people are going to play with their dogs. If they are motivated to bring their dog to training class, they're going to play with their dogs. And so it's up to us to teach them how to do it, to enhance their relationship rather than degrade it. So I want to just briefly talk about the benefits of play. There are a lot of them. It strengthens our social bond. And this is true of many species, by the way. There is research on play that shows that adult parents, hopefully they're adults, parents who play with their children have stronger and richer relationships with their children. The more you play with your kid, the better a bond you have with your kid. And there's no reason to not believe that that would be true between us and our dogs. Play has a positive effect on our emotional health. You all know that a great way to modulate your physiology and your emotions is to be playful and childlike, not childish, but childlike. I would argue that that's also true of dogs. Isn't that a great picture? Somebody who reads my blog sent that in. Isn't that gorgeous? Gorgeous picture. We all know that play often involves healthy exercise. I would argue that it should include mental as well as physical exercise. One of the things we talk about in Play Together, Stay Together is how important mental exercise is and how useful it is when you need to tire your dog out. Those of you who live here in the middle of California do not experience 20 below days, probably. But you might experience really hot days. I don't know. Right on the coast, probably not much. Frankly, it's pretty perfect. Well, you wouldn't know then, you like lucky people. But those of us who live in a freezer, remember coming back from Africa 2 trips ago, it was 90-something in Kenya. I came back, it was literally 20 below. 110 degrees. It's much warmer in the freezer compartment of your refrigerator. All right? It's like 28 degrees in your refrigerator. It was 40 degrees, 50 degrees below that. I came home and said, this is stupid. Why am I living in the freezer compartment of a refrigerator? This is just crazy. So when it's too cold to go outside, if you teach your dog tricks, your dog will be more tired than if you went outside for an hour. If you do 20 minutes of tricks, it's amazing. Mental and physical exercise. Play is a great way to teach emotional control and frustration tolerance. Those of you who are dog professionals have the same reaction that I do, which is like, oh, this poor dog. I would argue that this is not play that was as fun for the playee. One of the things about play is everybody's supposed to enjoy it. So certainly this dog might be learning frustration tolerance and emotional control, but personally I would prefer the dog learn in a way that was fun for the dog as well as for the kids dressing him up. Or the adults dressing him up. Play can help us manage multi-dog households. I use play a lot to teach dogs to be patient and polite with each other. And yeah, play is fun, as we've talked about before, even if you don't have a little massage thing like that cat. Play is still really fun. So this is a short video I want to show you. I took most of this very recently. This is just a short video to show just a couple of the ways you can use play to enhance your relationship. So this is a very short video of my favorite trick. And I edited it incorrectly. I cut part of it off, so I just show it twice.
You ready? Mm-hmm. Are you ashamed of yourself? Good. You ready? Mm-hmm. Are you ashamed of yourself?
It is really easy to teach. Isn't that great? So here, I'm playing with Will, and we're doing a couple of tricks. And I ask him to do something he's never done outside in this context. So I ask him to weave through my legs.
Want to play this game?
And he's never done it, and he's like, what? Look at his face. It's like, what do you want? I have no idea. Whatever, I have no idea what you want. Oh, okay, here, this is like we do in the living. Oh, I see. Okay, and there's your ball. There's your ball. This is a great way to teach that emotional control, frustration tolerance I talked about. Really loves to fetch. You can't do it much anymore because of a shoulder injury, but nonetheless. So lie down. Now Lassie gets to play. This is a few weeks ago, you guys. This is my old Lassie.
Good girl. Good girl, Lassie. Good girl, Lassie.
So we're learning stay.
Good girl.
Premack principle, right? A behavior that you can't count on to happen with a high probability. You use that to go to a behavior that you can count on to occur with a high probability, which is Willie fetching the toy. I love to fetch. If the way to fetch is to lie down and stay, then I will lie down and stay. Because it's the way I get to fetch.
Boy.
Same with drop. Leave it. Lie down. He's like, oh, I don't want to lie down. Okay. I will.
There.
Stay.
Okay.
Okay.
Good boy.
Okay. Now, again, more emotional control, frustration tolerance, tug, 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 drop, leave it, good boy.
Okay.
Okay.
Boy.
Tug, 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 tug.
Drop.
Drop.
Oh, Lassie.
Look at Lassie. Look at Lassie. She's never done this before. Tug, 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 tug. Look at her. I just start laughing.
I didn't know you liked this toy. Willie, get back.
So Willie, get back. I love that cue. Get back. Teach all your dogs to get back.
Okay, go.
Okay, let me explain this. That's a county highway. It's at the bottom of a hill. Willie's standing right in front of my house. People go 65, 70 miles an hour, and they're around a sharp blind curve and a downhill. They come screaming down that road. My dogs are outside loose in the yard a lot. Very rarely do people walk by. But the road has become, you can't see another place from my farm, but the road has become more populated, more and more populated. People are starting to jog and walk by. I need to proof my dogs to stay in the yard even when somebody walks by. And Willie is like, I love everybody. I'm a golden retriever with a tuxedo, and unless I'm crazy. So I'm doing classic proofing in that I'm asking Jim, Willie knows Jim, I'm teaching watch, and I'm going to teach him an auto watch. Every time he sees somebody walk by on the road, I want him to look at me and look for the toy. But I'm starting it with a familiar person under controlled situations so that we can win.
Watch me.
So he looks
Go
at Jim.
boy.
I say, watch me, go boy.
Really well.
Okay, now, here is a context in which Will is a big problem, or was a big problem. This is a dog at 7 weeks who is pathological about other dogs. I've never seen a puppy so bad. I will tell you more details, but I don't want to run out of time. But just believe me, 22 years of experience, this was trouble. All right? This was trouble. So I taught Willie watch, and I taught Willie's where's the dog. I started with food, but he would snatch the food from me. But once I got watch established, then I started using toys, Tug especially, because that's what he loves, and that's what relaxed him the most. Here's a dog he's never met, ever in his life.
Waiting. All right, on Willie.
And you're not going to see a problem behavior because he's great now. He's done really well. Took 2 years, 2.5. Look at how relaxed he looks. Good boy. I would never take this dog to a dog park. Good boy. But look at it. It's like, I want to say hi to that dog. This is a dog who was your basic bark plunger. He did bite another dog when he was like 5 months old. Good boy. Here is Play, again, same issue. This is a dog he's never met. Also, this is Tundra. Remember the Pyrenees who wanted to play with me?
Good boy.
So Tundra is standing to your right.
Good boy.
It's a very good boy. This is the biggest dog he's ever met. Look how huge she is. It's great with small dogs. The bigger they are, the more nervous he is. So the way I work through this is we start with watch and where's the dog sometimes and tug. We use play. Then I let them greet at the gate. I don't like that this is head on though. It's the one thing I do not like about the circumstance. And you can see Willie gets a little tense. Hey, Sweeties. See, it's a head on greeting. I don't like. See Willie go still?
Boy, Willie will.
And see me? Willie will. Good boy. Get back. I saw him go still. I saw him go tense. Don't really like that gate greeting. I did want to see how he was responding to her though. Because we're going to let him loose in this pen in just a minute. Now look him. They go down. The heads are down. So now I'm in this fenced half acre right behind my house. I'm playing fetch with Willie. I'm keeping him busy. And Tundra is brought on leash into this area. Tug, tug, play, play. I love to play. Okay, you can let Tundra off now. Good boy. Let her off. And he knows this drill. He's done this like 8 million times. And he's looking really good. Little circle wag. Look at her tail. His tail's pretty high. A lot of sniffing. And then I call him away.
That's fine.
I call him away, and then she totally ignores him, which is, I just said, that's fine. That's exactly perfect. Dogs who are really appropriate and can read other dogs, if there's any tension, they just like pretend they don't see each other for a while. That's perfect. So Willie loves to play, 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 play. I love the people. No, I love the people. Hi, Beth.
Go ahead and toss it. That's good. We'll just stop for a second. We'll just let him just not. Yes, I know. Good boy.
See, Willie's busy playing. You know, she's there. Now he's going to go sniff where she peed. Right? Get information about her without things being too close. Nothing's forced. She's clearly uncomfortable. She hasn't been out and about and met lots of other dogs. She's a guard dog on their property. Look at her tail, by the way. She looked at Willie, and then she turned away. Did you see that? She went straight at him, and then she turned away. So it's now about 15 minutes in. Willie is trying to get her to play. This is my super dog, aggressive dog. Please play with me. Come on. She's like, no, I'm not comfortable. Good boy, Willie. Good boy. Good boy. And so now Willie's trying to get her to play with a toy. Except he doesn't really want her to get it. See? My toy. My toy. And she really wants the stick, but look at his tail. It's my stick. You guys want to share the stick? No. Don't want to share the stick. Now, I have taught him to get all excited when I clap and go, when he has an object in his mouth. And look how he starts piloerecting. It's not to her. So pause, stop. Good boy, Will. Look at his hair. So I stopped doing that because like, oh yeah, bad context. Bad idea. Look what she does. I'm going to get my own stick because she plays I have the stick at home and he plays I have the stick at home. I'm going to lie down with my stick and then
Are you okay?
I'm going to try and get Jim to play with me. Jim took a little spill in the mud.
Jim's calling
So now
you.
she's going to go play with Jim because I'm much more comfortable playing with Jim than I am with Willie. So back to playing together between people and dogs. That's how Tundra's most comfortable right now. Whee! And look at Willie. He's like, okay, I can play too. Okay. So play can be a great thing between people and dogs. You can use it, as I just shown, in all these variety of circumstances, but it can be a source of miscommunication. This is a man who was asked to try and get his dog to play. This is from Karen. It's in a dog park. Tried to ask this guy to get his dog to play. And in this woman's defense, she was asked to play with her dog rudely. This is not how she normally plays with her dog. So I don't want to set this woman up because she was asked to play in the ways that you see other people play with their dogs. So, obviously, miscommunication with dogs with carpet knives in their mouth can have serious consequences. And I want to briefly talk about some really interesting research that was done by Rooney and Bradshaw et al. About how people signal their dogs to play. One of your colleagues came up to me, a veterinarian who does house calls, and said that he tried play bowing to two of his patients, and the dogs were like totally freaked out. And now they don't trust him. They're like, you're so wrong. You're just so wrong. This is Karen doing a great play bow. Well, what Rooney and Bradshaw discovered was that people who do not have, by the way, the nice, stereotypical, sort of unique signal like a play bow, humans don't have that. We have what's called primate play face. This is a perfect example of it. But our signals, if we want to play, are just not that consistent and stereotyped. Usually, the way we tell dogs we want to play is we pick up a toy, right? So that's the most common way to do it. But again, Rooney, Bradshaw, and Robinson looked at dog owners and asked them to get their dogs to play and then videotaped it and looked to see what they did. The one thing that only constraint was they couldn't use a toy. So they asked them to try and get their dogs to play without a toy. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to try and replicate that? So I just went to some of my friends and some of my clients and said, these are some of the signals that Rooney and Bradshaw and Robinson found people use to try and get their dogs to play. And these are the ones that they found were ineffective. Although I should tell you that one of the most interesting results of their research is they found that there was no correlation between the frequency of how often people tried things and how effective it was. Right? So even if it was ineffective, Tia, could you ask that noise to stop, to cease and desist? Thank you. So even if it was ineffective, people tried it anyway. So let me see. Whispering is something people often did. Now, it worked in this case. It worked with this little puppy. So, you know,
that was
little
pretty
puppies,
effective.
just about anything will work. But here somebody tried it with Willie. Who obviously loves to play. No, that didn't work. So something else that people commonly did to get their dog to play is patting the ground. I find extremely amusing because that's how I get a dog to lie down. Don't you? It really seems to help dogs to focus on the ground and lie down. I use that a lot as a way to help a dog lie down. So I had, these are vet students. Nope, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work. So, okay, that got Ava though. Kissing the dog was commonly used by people to try and get their dog to play. So, this crowd pretty well knows what's going to happen here. Nobody gets bitten. I'm happy to tell you. These are all owned dogs.
Okay.
That's how we feel about kissing. This one I love. People bark at their dogs to get their dogs to play with them. I love this. Now this woman does not normally do this. I asked her, please, this is a friend, please
Don't stare right at
bark at your dog. This one got Willie.
Good boy.
I got worried about this
Well,
one.
that's
She was
enough.
looking right at him, and she started barking right in his face. So you heard me, it's like, good boy, good boy. Whoa, he's not thinking play now, I can tell you right that. So here's what Rooney and Bradshaw Robinson found was effective, was play bowing. However, I would argue to you that, first of all, play bowing to an unfamiliar dog, one, may not be the best of ideas. Two, I would never play bow to a dog I don't know, partly because you just put your face sort of right in front of them and it well could be misconstrued. Second, we're not designed to do it. And so here's some dear friends of mine, and they said it's okay if we laugh, but I just want you to know, I just asked them to do something they don't normally do. I said, just try to play bow to your dog. So here's how they did. Well, that's not so good. And this one's not so good either. This is a guy, this is his play bow. So like Willie's going to get a little like, whoa, Willie boy. Whoa, Willie boy. That was his play bow. I asked him to play bow. Somebody else, it's not easy. And the dogs are like, what? Now, two vet students, look at this. Young, healthy, nice work, girls. Nice work. See, the vet community should be proud right there. Now, here's another thing that worked. And this, you saw this a lot in between the Topper and Gwynnie play, the two turds playing, start-stop. Sort of running toward and then running away. Running toward and running away. And some people call that separate from start-stop, but basically the idea is forward, back, start, stop. Very effective way to get a dog to play. Usually. But not always. Because her dog is like, yeah, I don't know. Right? So when I say very effective, it's like, well, it depends. But what gets her dog is running, I think. And I think chase your human, right? I use that as a reinforcement a lot. You have to be careful because they can get nippy. You have to be careful. You have to know when to stop. You don't let kids do it. But I think running away is an incredibly effective reinforcement for a dog and a great way to get them to play. Here's a guy who does start-stop really,
Okay,
really
go
well.
ahead and do what you're doing for a second.
I mean, we know he's playing, right? Lateral, start-stop. Here's another. She's really good at it. Same dog. Couple. And this is how they do play this way with
Try
their dog.
start, stop.
She obviously doesn't do it, right? This is not something, and look at her dog. Now, here's the problem with this kind of lunging and start-stopping. If you're not careful, this is what you get. Look at, she's got a young Labby Cross who's getting nippy, and I said stop there because she's going to get nipped. You know, it's just too mouthy. So you got to be really careful with this because that's a cue that gets dogs really playful. And how do dogs play? They play mouth fencing, right? So you got to be really careful. So I talked earlier about one of the biggest concerns I have about play between people and dogs is over arousal. I have seen a lot of bites. A lot of bites. One of my biggest concerns is especially when people play rough and tumble wrestle play with dogs. One of my worst cases I ever had was the neighborhood golden that everybody loved who was allowed to rough and tumble wrestle play with the neighbor kids, roll around on the ground, play. Dog has always been wonderful until the day he bit the kid on the back of the neck and held him down on the ground. Thank heavens the dog had him by the back of the neck because he wasn't biting his face. I said, no, that's not a thank heavens because that's how dogs kill things. Dog had him by the back of the neck, was holding him down. The kid violated some rule, and I don't know what it was. Partly what might have been happening was arousal. No pauses. Kids don't know to stop. And the dog got overly aroused, and then something happened, and he got frustrated. You know, I said it earlier. I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out. You add arousal and frustration, and you get trouble. Children do not know how to manage their arousal. And when they're around dogs who don't know how to manage their arousal, then you have a recipe for trouble. This is just kids at the zoo playground. Guess who was playing at the zoo, by the way? It was the kids. This is the playground at the zoo. And the activity level, now keep the sound up and listen. This is the same prairie dogs you saw before. Listen to the kid.
Holy mackerel, what happened? John, stop.
Number 7 was really number 8, John, because number 7 came out of his hole after that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
They're 9! If Willie heard that, he'd go crazy! Right? So you heard how Dad was talking? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they're 8. They're 9! Right? Kids need to learn how to manage arousal, and so do dogs. And I think that's part of what socialization is dogs learning how to manage their arousal. But we need to help them do it. We need to teach pauses as part of our play. Here's a dog. This is actually from R.K. Anderson's site. Have you been there? It's a great site. Animal Behavior Resources Institute, ABRI. Just Google ABRI. It's got a lot of interviews with a lot of different professional trainers and experts, audio interviews and video interviews. This is a sequence he did, and you'll see it looks so professional. I just feel, look at this. I just feel so cool. So this is a dog at a shelter that we're evaluating.
Very good. Oh, you're a very good girl. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes. Yes. Oh, you're going to be a little nippy, aren't you?
I think so I was specifically looking to see how is this dog going to be with kids. Maybe not so good, right? Right? This dog hasn't learned how to manage his arousal, and what I was doing was clearly enough to get this dog getting a little bit too mouthy. So it's true that part of the fun of play is due to arousal, but it's also something that we absolutely have to learn how to control, because as we know, arousal plus frustration equals people who shoot, the pop machine. And the person who shot the pop machine was in Wisconsin. Just wanted you to know, was in Wisconsin that happened. Obvious reasons this is important. They don't have guns, but they have those teeth. Oh, those teeth. And those teeth are right at face level with a lot of kids. There were little kids with tender little skin. So you mix up high arousal with children and high arousal with dogs, and you have the potential for big trouble. And that's what I think part of these pauses and play bows, I think, and I'm completely speculating, this is my hypothesis, is that a lot of these pauses are exactly about managing arousal, about dogs helping themselves keep from getting overly aroused and keep from getting overly emotionally aroused, either one of them. Do I think they're doing it consciously? No, not necessarily. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't think they necessarily are. But I think that's its function. So, what are the implications for those of us who do this for a living? I think one of the implications, those of you who have play in your classes, yay on you. People are going to play with their dogs, and if we don't teach them how to play appropriately, then I think we're missing out. I think it's really important. We need to teach them about pauses. We need to teach them about using play to enhance obedience, teach emotional control, to incorporate pauses into their play. I think it's really important, if you can, to try and teach dogs to focus on object play. Granted, all dogs don't do it. Absolutely no question. Some dogs are like, I don't know what that is. If it's not alive, I am not interested. There are dogs like that. There's no question about it. If you have a dog you'd like to direct to objects who is not inherently interested, get a Kong, put a little bit of food in it, and get the dog used to, or any kind of a little toy you can stuff, and get the dog used to going after something, and then start throwing that something without food in it, give the dog a food reward. I've changed some dogs who grew up in those horrible, deprived environments, who had no interest in objects. Can take a year or two, but you can redirect them. Objects are our best friends. Let them wrap their mouth around a tennis ball and not your elbow. We talked about teaching emotional control. This is just Willie. And lastly, just as a reminder, that you can use the Premack principle to basically get a dog to do a low probability behavior as a window to a high probability behavior. He loves to fetch. He didn't love to lie down and stay. It was pretty easy to teach him. And yes, I know he's a border collie, but the fact of the matter is that sometimes border collies are easier and sometimes they're harder, because some of them are crazy. It's just what it is. I also use the same principles on Tulip, my Great Pyrenees, who is the anti-border collie, basically. So, just in summary, I hope you can take this information, and what I suggest you do, because we've all been to seminars and went, that was great, and then forgot everything, right? Here's my suggestion. You can take it or leave it. It'll depend on your life and what's going to happen tonight. If at all possible, within the next 24 hours, ideally within the next 12, if at all possible, go over your notes. Read your notes within the next 12 to 24 hours. There's research on it that's absolutely definitive. If you do that, you have a chance of retaining as much as 30 to 40% of the information that you heard. If you don't do that, your chance of retaining over 5 to 10% is nil. So if you've made a huge investment today, if you possibly can find the time, make the time, spend 15 minutes going over your notes tonight or tomorrow morning, and then do it. Here's the kicker. Here's the hard part. One more time within the next 3 days. And what I specifically would suggest is that you go over your notes and you think, what one or two things can I do right now in my practice with my own dog? What can I take from the seminar that I can do? If you just do one thing that you really, really do from today, you have absolutely made your time worthwhile. And that was my job, remember? That was my job, was to make your time worthwhile. So hopefully you can take this information, create happy faces like this. I'm going to send you away with one more video. Some of you have seen it. This is Snowball, a rescued cockatoo. Now watch the bird in the back. Okay, you guys. Thank you all.